What's up, guys? Untitled Studios here, and yeah, I kind of put this review off for a little bit too long, didn't I? So, I reviewed many Bissell vacuums, but the one I didn't review was one that I bought new a while ago, and I also have another one. So, I decided that now is finally the time to get the review of it over with. So, this is the Bissell PowerForce, the newest version you can currently find in the market, the version that replaced this older variant. And this machine, you can find it right now at Walmart for just over $50, around $56, whereas the standard PowerForce Helix, the bagless variant, you can find for around $54. So, very similar price ranges. You can also find for around $40 at my local Walmart right now the PowerForce Compact, as well as other more premium bagless variants of both of these machines. And you can also find upgraded versions of the PowerForce bagged, like the Powerlifter Bagged Pet, as well as commercial versions like the Sanitaire Professional SL4110A and the Bissell Big Green Commercial. So you probably get the idea. Within Bissell's lineup, there is a lot of decent quality bagged upright vacuum cleaners, and a lot of other brands pretty much neglect bagged vacuums. Dirt Devil has really not released a bagged vacuum in a while that I can remember, or at least have seen evidence of. Same thing with Eureka. And Hoover has a couple, or at least they did, but I don't even know if they still make those. They had like the Wind Tunnel Max bagged. I don't even know if they still produce that at this point. There's not a lot of options left as far as good, cheap, bagless vacuums. Chances are, if you go into a store of some kind, the only time you're going to find a bagged vacuum is this one inside of a Walmart. In fact, it's a Walmart exclusive. So, with that in mind, you don't really have a lot of options for bagged vacuums, but then again, do you? And is this the one that you should consider, especially for the price? Now, I'm going to get the obvious out of the way. If you're comparing these two machines, you're trying to decide, oh, should I go bagged or should I go bagless? Let me answer that for you. Go bagged. And the reason being is that when you compare these two machines, there are a lot of incentives to go for the bagged unit. First off, the hose. The hose is the most obvious thing. You actually get a better quality hose than on the standard PowerForce Helix. This hose is awful. This hose isn't too bad. You get better cord hook storage. The cord on this machine is actually on the side. You can see this particular unit is really dusty because I've pretty much been using it like a shop vac. And it's stored on the side, meaning that if you're using this in an application where you want to add an extension cord to it, it's a lot easier to add one onto the side. The cord hooks stick out a great bit from the machine, and I remember that being an initial complaint for a lot of people that the cord hooks stick out, but I've yet to see any issues of these cord hooks breaking off. They appear to be relatively sturdy, and they allow more space for cord to be wrapped around it. So if you're actually using this in a commercial application, like I know many people do, it's very easy to add an extension cord to this machine. Whereas on the PowerForce Helix, it's not so easy because you have to snake the cord all the way around the back through the hose. And also it tends to do this, where the cord tends to fall off and slide down because this clip isn't very secure. It tends to just slide down the cable. Speaking of cables, one thing I have to mention is that this particular PowerForce bag I actually got for completely free. I actually got this in the dumpster for my apartment complex, and it had a chopped cord on it. So I simply grabbed another cord, installed it on here, and the system is working like a champ. You can see the plug is a little bit different than the stock plug, but it does work, and it works very nicely. So I was able to fix the vacuum pretty easily, and the motor wasn't bad on it. The motor still sounds pretty decent. The bearings do sound a little bit rough, but considering I got this for 100% free, didn't put a single penny into this machine, I'm definitely not complaining. So these machines are definitely resilient, especially more so in the bagless units, because assuming you don't blow up a bag or use the thing without a bag, the inside's going to stay completely clean, and the motor is going to last much longer than in a bagless variant, even with the same amount of general maintenance. or maybe I should say the equivalent amount of general maintenance, because you will have to maintain the PowerForce Helix a lot more than the bagged, because you actually have this filter up here that you really need to take care of for the machine to keep operating as intended. You can see there's a lot of dust leakage on these machines, which is definitely not good. So you can see there's a lot of dust right there, and I'm actually half tempted to pause this video and wipe this off before I put the dirt container on, but I'm just going to ignore that for now. Now, these machines, you just have a little pull tab right here, and you just pull it, and then the bag pops out. You can see I have my Clean Fairy HEPA bag in here, and that's helped keep the machine very, very clean. And you can see the inside of it is completely dust-free. Whereas we can see the opposite end of the spectrum, where this not only doesn't have a HEPA bag, but it has the wrong type of bag. This has a Hoover Y bag in it, and it's filthy. Now, most of this is kind of my fault, because there was a couple seconds when I ran it without a bag because I forgot that I didn't put a bag in there, so that's my fault. But yeah, be careful for that. Do not run this thing without a bag, because you will completely clog up the filter, the premotor filter that's down there. See, there's a premotor filter down there. You do not want to plug that up. Also, while Hoover Y bags do fit, they don't fit very well. They let out dust and especially odors. I can smell this right now. Please just use the proper Bissell style 1-in-7 bags. You can obviously get them at Walmart and literally everywhere else. They're common as dirt. So you can easily find the bags for these machines, just like you've been able to for every Bissell PowerForce and PowerGlide. It's incredibly easy to find. And again, identical bags as the outgoing PowerForce and the more premium Powerlifter bagged pet. Now, the Powerlifter usually retails around $150, but you can usually find it on Walmart's website for around $82, whereas this one is, around $56. So basically, for almost the price of two of these, you can get the Powerlifter. And there's also a CleanView variant, or at least there was, but I'm pretty sure it's discontinued now. So should you spend the extra money and get the Powerlifter, or should you save your money and get the PowerForce? Sorry if I'm stuttering a little bit. But generally speaking, there's the one reason why I would consider getting the Powerlifter over the PowerForce, and that's cord length. This PowerForce only has a 23-foot cord. The Powerlifter has a 30-foot cord. So that's kind of my biggest reason for wanting to upgrade. However, if you don't care about anything else, then just get an extension cord. And these cord hooks will more than hold it. So yeah, the PowerForce is a very versatile machine, and also since it's common as dirt, it's super easy to find parts for it. It's super easy to disassemble this base and throw the entire thing in the sink so you can clean it or sanitize it properly. Whenever you get one of these machines, it's incredibly easy to restore. There's also no clear window up the front to worry about getting cloudy with dirt and dust. It's just completely solid. I prefer that. It's also the reason why I prefer the 1700 model of this to the newer 2191 model. So, because again, this little front base gets cloudy and it looks really bad after a while. And in my opinion, it's mostly unnecessary. It doesn't do a whole lot as far as helping you figure out what's wrong with your vacuum, other than maybe seeing the hair that's tangled. But for me, I don't really care, because I can just turn the thing down and see the brush from the underside. And I might as well do that. We can see underneath, again, this is the new one, so this is the one that I've used very sparingly. It's still got its original belt on it, and you can see from what little usage it's had, it's held up just fine. But obviously this one in particular, since this one's in worse condition, it's the one I've been sort of beating into the ground and using extensively. And the brush roll on this one has been more than enough. It still has its original brush roll in it. Everything, I believe it still even has its original belt on it, because I was mostly using it for above floor, so I wasn't really concerned too much with how bad the belt is. You can see this entire thing has gotten scuffed up really badly from very rough use. Again, the previous owner was not very kind to it, and I've been using it pretty much like a shop vac, so it's been outside on concrete, and I haven't been intentionally trying to rough the thing up, but I've just been ignoring it, basically just like what a normal person would do, and just use it and not really worry about the machine, since it's an inexpensive vacuum. So This is the aftermath. You can see that the brush roll, the tangling has been relatively minuscule, and it's obviously pretty dirty down there, but nothing out of the ordinary. The bearings on the brush roll still spin freely. It still feels just fine. There's no issues with the brush roll. The brush roll quality has gotten a lot better with these newer units versus these older ones. Now, these brush rolls still do sometimes go out. Wow, I cannot talk today. I say that a lot, don't I? But generally speaking, 98 times out of 100, this brush roll is going to be relatively solid, and it's not going to have any issues, assuming that you're nice to it. I still recommend, maybe every few years opening this up, and every time you replace the belt, throw some oil in the brush roll bearings, just drop some oil on either side of the caps, and that should mitigate that problem and help it from getting so bad in the first place. I know most people are not going to do that, so they're just going to use it until the brush roll seizes up in 10 years or however long it takes. But, I mean, for what it's worth, my original Power Glide is 20 years old at this point, and it still has its original brush roll in it, and it's still working just fine with no issues. So the bearings on these are relatively hit and miss, but again, for $50, most people wouldn't really complain about that, at least if they know what they're doing. I know there's a lot of people out there who, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, who, they'll just trash on any machine they get the opportunity to, unless it's from their favorite company. And the truth is that this is one of the best machines you can get for the price. Now, I know that other machines in the lineup in the past have been built better, have had better build quality, and have generally been more collector-oriented. But the fact is that the majority of consumers don't care about that. They just want something that's simple and light and works and does the job and doesn't really complain about it. And that's exactly what this machine does. If you want a cheap, inexpensive bagged machine that does the trick and does the trick well, with a decent amount of height adjustments, a decent enough cord length, decent onboard tools, and for a price that won't break the bank, especially during the hard times that everyone is facing right now with the virus and the depression and everything, obviously spending $800 on a vacuum is just not feasible for many people, and people who try to pretend that everyone can spend $800 on a vacuum don't know their ass from their elbow. But I digress. This machine is pretty good. Now, a lot of people ask me, from a collector's point of view, do I prefer this or do I prefer the older style PowerForce bag? And I prefer the older style, mainly because I prefer the side-mounted power switch. Also, I like the look of the older style a little bit more. It's a little bit more nostalgic, and I like the hose a little bit better. I like how it has a hose wand. I like how the reach is a lot better on the older units, because these newer units have a much shorter extension wand than the older PowerForces. They're closer to the older Clean Views. In fact, they're pretty much identical to the older Clean Views. Also, some early examples of the 1739 had short crevice tools, but all the ones I find nowadays have longer crevice tools, so they have fixed that issue with them including really crappy crevice tools. So the crevice tool is a lot better. In that case, it's actually better than the outgoing model, because the outgoing model has a much shorter crevice tool than this particular unit does. And of course, you get a little dusting brush back here, which does the trick. It's more so an upholstery brush. You're not really going to get a lot of good dusting with this. If you want a better quality dusting brush, you should probably, splurge on something like the Elite Rewind Plus for around $100. That dusting brush is phenomenal for a budget, in-store vacuum. As far as actual dusting, it's very soft, very good for dusting delicate items. This one is more so for upholstery. And, when you compare it to, again, the PowerForce Helix has the exact same dusting brush, but when you compare it to the outgoing model, you can see the outgoing model. I shouldn't say outgoing, because this model's been gone for a few years now. You can see this, well, it's supposed to have a short crevice tool, but I forgot that I put a long crevice tool on it. But you can see that it's a black crevice tool instead of a gray one. And it has this little combination tool, which the bristles on this are pretty similar to on the new brush, but the new brush is a little bit longer and a little bit softer. So this is still better for dusting than this awful thing, but, and then, of course, this upholstery tool isn't really all that useful. To be honest, I can't even remember the last time I used this, so I guess I can't really complain about them getting rid of it because, well, it's kind of a crappy tool. And since it is just one tool, there is no, you don't have to worry about the joint on this breaking, because once in a while I do see these where the joint on here has loosened up and then it doesn't stay on either side that you want to use it on. So that's a little improvement with the newer one. Here, I actually got that. But yeah, so this is the outgoing 1398 model. You can see this particular example is from 2015. And this is one where it required a lots of maintenance. Now, I still get people who point to Walmart's erroneous listing of this on their website. Walmart never got these ones back in stock. These have not been on the market for a few years now, probably 4 or 5 years now. So if you ever see these from a major retailer's website, chances are it's fake and it's just an incorrect listing. I've had people tell me, go buy one. I've tried. They do not have them in stock. It's just an error listing with the website. They don't have these older units in stock, and they never will. Another thing is that this one you can actually replace the post motor filter, whereas the newer ones you can't. On either of these machines you can't. If you want to replace the post motor filter, you have to step up to one of the turbo variants. Even the higher end power lifter still doesn't allow you to remove the post motor filter, which is annoying. This one does, and it allows you to replace that post motor filter and put a HEPA filter in, like I've done with this machine, specifically because it didn't have the post motor filter. The original owners threw it away for some reason. But, that's not a big deal, because on the off chance that, these have been used for a while, I shouldn't say off chance, because obviously some of these earliest versions of these units are about 5 years old at this point and are probably in need of a service. Obviously, whenever I service one of these, I'll pull it down to the motor and make sure the motor is clean, make sure the bearings on the motor are good, and I'll also clean out that post motor filter. So it's not the biggest deal in the world. If anything, it gives technicians like me an incentive to actually pull the thing down to the motor and make sure that the thing is going to last. So I guess you could say that's not too bad. So another thing that I'll mention, again, this has the same height adjustment. The reason why I swapped this out with an orange one, because I know people are going to mention this. So, mark my words, if you comment about this, you didn't watch the entire video, because I know people will comment as soon as they see something and not watch the whole video first to see if their question was answered. So, please stop doing that. It's annoying. So, this height adjustment was actually from a PowerForce Helix 1700, and orange is my second favorite color, along with blue. So I put this dial in here so that way it has a blue and orange color scheme, because I like blue and orange. So yeah, that's the reason why I replaced this carpet height knob. There was no real reason to, but I wanted to. So that's why this is orange. There's no real reason. I just wanted it to be orange, and I had an orange one, so I popped it in here. That's pretty much it. Not really much else goes into that. So another thing is that whenever people are assembling these, they often forget that you really need to kind of push these screws down in. A lot of people don't install these screws all the way, but you kind of have to, otherwise the handle is going to be loose. So you have to actually drive both of the screws all the way into the handle. I like the older PowerForce better because you just had the one screw that goes in through the back. Why is this note having problems with focusing? But you just had the one screw that went into the back and you slid the handle up front, so even if you lost the screw, the handle was still secured on the body. I like that a lot more. But this probably does say plastic, and the handle itself is a lot sturdier than on the older PowerForce, so I will give it that. Even if the rest of the machine, well, compared to the 1398, they feel about the same. In fact, I think this one feels a little bit nicer build quality-wise, just by a hair. But when you're comparing it to like a 3522, that feels much more robust than this does. Again, except for the handle. The handle on this is fantastic. It's very, very good quality, very stiff. It doesn't go anywhere. It feels solid. So, and that's the part that you're going to be holding, so that's pretty important. So, again, got this little hose right here. It's a twist and snap hose, so you can just easily twist it and snap it to unclog it. For some reason, it's being really stiff right now. Maybe this one's... Oh, maybe I forgot how to do this. Does it go like this? Yes, it goes like that. So, twist and snap hose, so you can easily unclog it. Very, very easily. No issues whatsoever. If I can get this back in with one hand. There we go. So, that's pretty nice. Also, this pedal appears to be a lot better quality than the old one, the pedal on that one is already going out. These pedals have been a lot nicer. So again, Bissell actually did improve some of the things that were issues on the outgoing unit, on the unit they replaced. So you got to give them credit for that. I know nobody ever does, but I like to give them credit for that. So again, model 1739, this particular one's from 2017, so pretty early example. But yeah, and this one I believe should be from 2020, 2019 I see. Okay, yeah, this must have been, I bought this in 2020, I'm pretty sure, but might have been sitting on the shelf for a little bit. But yeah, so not much else to say about it. I guess the only other thing that I could possibly mention about this is the cord clip on here is pretty much the same as the old one. Some people have complained about the cord clip on one of these two machines. I forgot which one, but it's been fine. I haven't had any issues with it. It's actually better than a lot of the more premium Bissell cord clips. It actually holds the cable in place a lot better than other machines. You know, it also doesn't, you know, tear at the cable, so that's really nice. And also this carrying handle I actually don't like as much as the old PowerForce. I prefer it being all the way in the back, but this is fine too. It's not the biggest deal in the world. It's obviously better for you to hold it like this than like this, because obviously this puts a lot of strain on your arm. But when you're holding it like this, it seems to be like this is the way that you're supposed to hold it when you're walking with it, is with the handle facing out. Whereas, you know, the older unit, you just had the handle in the back, and much easier. It felt a lot more balanced, a lot easier, but whatever, that's no big deal. So the only thing left is to run this thing, and I am going to run the worn, beat down one just because I think that's a little bit more interesting than running a brand new one that you see all the time. So yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention, that when using this in like a commercial application where there's a lot of dirt going into the machine, the lower hose tends to get clogged very easily. So keep that in mind, that, you know, the lower hose does tend to get clogged. The main hose, not so much. So, again, that's just based off my experience. And, yeah, this is a testament to why you shouldn't use the wrong bag in your machine, because I can smell the dust that's been spat out of this machine. And now I can smell it all over the house, and it's not very good. So, yeah, definitely using the wrong bag is worse than using a bagless vacuum with the proper filters, but using the correct bag is much better. So use the correct bag, because I can smell it and it's really bad. So please use Bissell style 7 bags in this thing. Ideally get HEPA if you can find them, and if you can find HEPA bags, then you've got one of the best filtering vacuums on the market in terms of price range. So yeah, I mean, get HEPA bags if you can, again, like the one that's in my other PowerForce, but if you use the wrong bags, you're going to have a lot of problems with filtration, because, yeah, that's just that little bit. I can't even imagine going through my entire house with that. Oh, that smells awful. I really need to pull this thing apart and do a deep clean on it. But yeah, so that's the Bissell Power. Ugh, wow. That is gross. Anyways, so that's the Bissell PowerForce model 1739. Ugh, ew. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have used this in my house after using it outside. But, anyways, this is Untitled Studio signing out. And I'm going to spray some Febreze, get an air purifier, and probably pass out from all the dust. Anyway, guys, this is Untitled Studio signing out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Peace.